Hello, good evening, friends. Meeting again in the session of philosophy. And we are discussing regarding the Kant's philosophy. We have finished with the chapter number 32. The first part, as explained by Dr. J.T. Kent regarding the value of symptoms. Today, we'll go ahead with the chapter number 33, where again he has continued with the understanding of concept of value of symptoms. He, in the last chapter, explained about the importance of general symptoms as compared to the particular symptoms and how generals defines the individuality. That's what he tried to explain over there. On day one, we have learned the analysis of the symptoms and how to categorize symptoms into two different parts, that is the general symptom and particular symptom, and how generals are further classified into the mental generals and physical generals, and the particulars into the characteristic and common. That's what we have learned. Afterwards, the mental generals, again, we have classified into first variety, the will and emotions, second variety, intellect and understanding, and last variety related with the memory. And if we consider this evaluation, as a general rule, mental generals are more important than physical generals, and physical generals are more important to the characteristic. And again, in the mental generals, will and emotions dominates the intellect and understanding dominates with the memory. And this sequence is commonly considered, but it varies from individual to individual, depending upon the characteristic of the case. If particular characteristic is too strong and appears at more than 3 places, it becomes a general, and it also top or comes in the at the top in the evaluation. And this is what we have learned. Let us go ahead what Kent wants to say regarding these characteristic symptoms or particular characteristic symptoms. The value of symptoms continued, chapter number 33. It is very important that you should understand what is meant by general, common, and particular symptom. And so I will repeat somewhat. The generals are sometimes made up of particulars. If you examine any part alone, you are only examining the particular. If you examine the liver symptoms alone, you are examining particulars. If you are examining eye symptoms or the symptoms of any other region considered apart from the whole man, you are examining particulars. But after you have gathered particulars of every region of the body, and you see there are certain symptoms running through the particulars, these symptoms that run through the particulars have become generals as well as particulars. So he is explaining that generally what happens, we used to look towards the particular symptoms as the patient explains. So for example, patient explains, I am having burning in the eye. You look toward the eye and consider the burning as a particular symptom. Then patient explains, yes, I have burning in the stomach also. So you examine stomach and he is having the burning in stomach also. That is second important particular symptom. And then he explains that he is also having the burning in soles. What has happened? The patient has 3 particulars having the similar characters, and that character which is felt better by warm application, then that particular becomes a general because it is present in more than 3 parts, more than 2 parts in fact, and in 3 parts if it is present, it means it becomes general, and that general tops in the rank if it has the characteristic. And this is what he tried to explain over there in this specific part. And if you have such generals, those are very important in your cases. Things that apply to all organs may be predicated of the person himself. Things that modify all parts of the organism are those that relate to the general state. Anything that the individual predicates of himself is also general. There are things that an individual might say of himself that might relate to anyone, to only one organ. But of course, that becomes a particular. But most of the things that man predicates of himself are general. So he is explaining what is general again. And generals are the symptoms which are related to the person as a whole. So I am thirsty, I am hungry, I am sleepy, I am drowsy, I dream so and so. See, everything is explained in the specific particular way with the prefix I, and it becomes a general symptom. This general has a lot of importance because it is related to that individual. And once the things are related to the individual, which indicates the individuality of the individual, then it becomes a very important symptom in your case because that will give you the remedy. Consider, for instance, the symptoms of the sleep. You might at first think that they are related to the brain, but the brain does not sleep any more than the whole man. He is giving example how this how you can differentiate whether it is particular symptom or a general symptom. Most important thing which you have to consider what the patient says. I was wakeful last night. He is predicating something of himself and hence it is general. So I could not sleep whole night. I could not sleep. We never say that my brain could not sleep. So sleep always becomes a general because patient talks about himself when he is talking about the sleep. Or he says, I dreamed. Well, it is true that the whole man really dreamed. You might say that the mind merely dreamed, but the mind is the man, and therefore we see how important sleep and dreams becomes in an anamnesis of the case. So the things which are related to the person as a whole always define the individuality, always gives you a confidence to prescribe remedy because sleep and dreams they are related to the person as a whole, indicating his own individuality. Dreams are always individualistic. And that's why if a patient defines very specifically certain dream, then you must give importance to it. That many times is a key to your case. Scarcely more important is what the woman says of her menstruation. Menstruation so closely relates to the whole woman that it becomes most important. The special senses are also so closely related to the whole man that smells are grateful and the smells are disagreeable becomes general. So whenever patient is talking about the special senses, then he generally talks about the prefix I. Doctor, what has happened? I don't know, but I'm having problem in at the nose level. I could not smell properly. I couldn't get proper smell of the food atom. See, he's talking about not particular part. He's not talking my nose is not smelling properly. No, it is not. I'm not smelling properly. I could not visualize that. I could not listen. See, all special senses are related to the person as a whole. Related with the, I like tasty things. I like sweets. My tongue likes sweets. It is a wrong thing. So all special senses are always related to the particular person as a whole, and they are general symptoms. There are certain smells that relate more particularly to the nose itself because the smell is in the nose and is due to some pathological condition of the nose. Thus becomes mere particular. The smell of food is agreeable when the man is hungry, and that will relate to the whole man. But one who has vicious catarrh of the nose with much local disturbance has many perversions of smell which are particular because that relate to the nose. And patient says, I see so and so without seeing that relates to the general. It is to a great extent a seeing with the understanding. So we have to understand what exactly the patient is talking about. When patient says, Doctor, what has happened to my nose? I couldn't know, but since last few days, I could not, my nose, I could not get the smell properly in my nose. If it is related with the pathology, then it is particular. If it is not related with the pathology, then it is general. Many patients who are suffering from atrophic rhinitis, they lost the smell, sense of smell. So it is related to the particular part, then it becomes a particular symptom. If it is not related to the particular pathology, then it becomes a general. So you have to understand exactly what the patient is talking about. If it is related with the pathology, it is a common symptom. If it is related to the person as a whole, it is an uncommon symptom, important symptom. A patient says, I see so and so without seeing. That relates to the generals. It is to a great extent seeing with understanding. Now, when the eye itself becomes affected, the symptoms gathered are particulars because they relate to the anatomy of the eye. The more the symptoms relate to the anatomy of the parts, the more external they are. The more they relate to the tissues, the more likely they are to be particular. See how nicely he is elaborating which symptom is called as a particular symptom. If the symptoms are related to the particular anatomical site, they becomes more particular. If they are related to the tissues, they are more particular because here you are explaining about that specific site exactly: nose, the eyes, the ear, the mouth, the tongue, the GI system, everything. The things, therefore, that relate to the man are the ones to be singled out in the anamnesis and marked first. See what he said? The things, therefore, that relate to the man are the ones to be singled out in anamnesis and marked first. So things which are general should be marked first. After gathering together all symptoms of the patient, you should single out the study first of all everything and anything that you can predicate of the man, everything of which you can say he feels so and so, she suffers so and so. Find out what remedies relate to these symptoms first. So he gives importance to the generals because generals are very important. Sometimes when you have figured out the anamnesis of generals, you have settled by your anamnesis upon 3 remedies or possibly upon one. In 99 cases of 100, you can leave out the particulars, for the particulars are usually contained within the general. So many times it happens that when you are dealing with the patients, you go on understanding the general symptoms of the patient and you get the answer with the general. We get very easily the mental generals. We get very easily the physical general. And because of which it becomes quite easy to reach to the remedy. Because here patient is talking about his own individuality. And ultimately, we have to give remedy to the patient and not to his parts only. Unless and until that particular symptom becomes characteristic, it doesn't have significance. In 99 cases of 100, you can leave out the particulars, for the particulars are usually contained within general. If there be but one remedy that has numerous generals and covers those absolutely and covers those generals absolutely and clearly and strongly, that will be the remedy that will cure the case. So if in your cases you get very clearly the generals, and if generals indicate certain remedy, then he says that will definitely cure the case. There may be a lot of little particulars that may appear to contraindicate, but they cannot. For nothing in particulars can contraindicate general. One strong general can overrule all particulars you can gather. Aggravation from heat will throw out arsenical bomb from the consideration in any case. So he is giving example that how generals are important and how generals individual. Simple thing is that he has given example of arsenic. Arsenic general modality is that it gets ameliorated, the burning gets ameliorated by the warmth. This is the general, a big general. And if patient is having these symptoms very specifically in the case, and if this patient is talking about that he gets aggravated by warmth in general, then that doesn't have a significance about the arsenic, because here it has been lost. So every general symptoms defines the individuality. And that's what he is explaining over there. That individuality is very easily you can gather on the basis of general symptoms. It may be advisable to dwell again for little upon the common symptoms. Sometimes we find in a woman the common symptoms prolapses. It is a common thing for them to say, Doctor, I have such a dragging down in my bowels as in my insides were coming out. That is a common feature and it is a common symptom. There is nothing about that alone that will enable you to find the remedy. But for these common symptoms, we have class of remedy. When you see when you see a rubric containing a dozen, 15 or 20 remedies, you may often know it is a common symptom. We would say that all women who have prolapses have to a great extent the dragging down feeling, as if uterus would come out. If we were able to take, if we were to take this symptom and follow it up, we would see that it works in various directions. It would see that it runs into generals and into particulars. How shall we decide when to give sepia and when lilium tea, when murex, when belladonna, when pulsatilla, when nuts, and when nectarine? So he is explaining one simple example. If patient is complaining of prolapses, so that this is a prolapsus. If you take that rubric for the case, prolapsus is the condition where the dragging sensation is common because it is related to directly with the pathology. If it is directly related with the pathology, that pathology will not guide you to the right remedy. Open your repertory, find it out the remedies under this pathology, that is the prolapsus of uterus, and you'll get ample remedy. You cannot come to a conclusion with the help of such a rubric because there is nothing characteristic which is there, and then you cannot differentiate whether to give the sepia or murex or lilium tea. He has given the examples because you have not got the generals of the. And then what is it? To enable you to pick up of that group of remedies, the one that will cure you must cure you, cure that will cure you must study both the generals and particulars of the patient. In generals, always first. So if you want to differentiate, then you have to differentiate on the basis of generals, not on the particulars. It is to be a Naxomica patient who has the prolapsus of uterus. What will she say of herself that will make you see Naxomica in you? She would be chilly, full of coryza, with stuffing up nose in a warm room. She would be very irritable, snappish, wants to kill somebody, wants to throw her child into fire, wants to kill her husband. She would probably have constipation, and every pain she had with it would make her want to go to stool, urging to stool, but only a little is past and she wants to go frequently. You see at once that she has the generals of Nux, and whatever particulars she has are in harmony with those general. And you go from general to particular. The whole problem, like any other scientific problem, must be gone into and followed by from general to particular. So he is giving you example, one simple example he has mentioned regarding the Naxomica. If you want to select Naxomica out of that list of prolapses, then you have to look towards the generals of that patient. If those generals are matched with Naxomica, then you prescribe Naxomica. If generals are matched with sepia, you give the sepia. If generals are matched with the murex, then you give the murex. So your remedy never depends upon the particular symptom. Your remedy depends upon generals, which indicates the individuality of the individual. So he has given one example of Naxomika, and now he is giving one more example of sepia. Suppose that sepia is indicated for that whom you have in it as well this common symptom. Now what is there in this patient that no other patient has? The dragging down is just the same, but with an awful all gone sinking feeling in the stomach. And she gets relief only when sitting with legs crossed. Now it has become special. She feels better by legs crossed. This is very important. She has constant feeling of lump in the rectum that makes her want to go to stool, but she goes for days without any urging at all. She is sallow and sickly, talks of bilious symptoms, and has yellow saddle over the nose. She tells you that she has an aversion to her children and feels very sad that she does not love her husband as she ought to. She is unable to exercise the love that she has to her children. Now you have that which she says of herself in general, and that which she tells of the stomach and rectum in particular, and it particular. You can see now the dragging down sensation is not general, not particular, but it's common. So here he is giving example of one more remedy, sapiens. How will you define this patient requires sapien? You have to find it out all characteristics which are related to the general, and then you can define, yes, this patient requires the sapien. Otherwise, you can't. With the help of prolapses, you cannot give sapien. With the help of dragging sensation during prolapses, you cannot give the sepia because that will not going to work. You are not coming to the conclusion. So value of symptoms always depends that the symptom which individualize the case is valuable for you. Common symptoms never individualize the case. And that's why common doesn't have a meaning. Common will not going to give the remedies. That's why he explains over there that you must have such a general symptom on the basis of which it is very easily you can differentiate and you can find it out a right remedy. We'll finish one more paragraph. Many of the symptoms of the regions are both common and particular. Particular because they are of regions and common because they describe the state. Scarlet fever gives us an illustration of this. We would group all striking symptoms indicative of scarlet fever, the rash, the appearance of mucous membrane, the sore throat, the fever, the history and period of prodrome. The remedies that for scarlet fever must have these symptoms in common with scarlet fever. The appearance of scarlet fever is among the common fever. Common things of belladonna, Elanthus has in its own common thing the appearance of scarlet fever. Apis has the appearance of scarlet fever. Rust has the appearance of rough scarlet fever. Sulfur and phosphorus have rash similar to scarlet fever. So, if we were to make a rubric for the repertory, we'd put the names of all these remedies in the common group and call it a scarlet fever. So, he's giving one more example that how a diagnosis gives you, takes you out of the remedy. It is not possible to reach to the remedy with the help of common symptoms. If you get that patient is having scarlet fever, you cannot prescribe because there are many remedies for scarlet fever. What is the characteristic of that scarlet fever indicating in that specific individual? Unless you get that, you cannot prescribe. And this is what he wants to explain, that your remedy always depends upon general set, not upon the particulars commonly. And that's why in 99 cases out of 100, you have to depend on the generals which will individualize that case. So ultimately, the more important conclusion which we can draw up till now is that generals are more important and gives or tells you individuality than the particulars. That is what Kent wants to say. So on this line, we'll finish today's session and we'll meet again tomorrow at the same time. until 6th of December, it is not possible to conduct a Materia Medica session at 8 o'clock. So we'll meet directly on 7th of this month with the Materia Medica session. So that's all for today. Thank you. Thanks a lot being there. We'll meet again tomorrow at the same time.